She stood in our kitchen, barefoot, wine glass in hand, smirking like she'd just won something. "You'd never leave," she said, her voice soaked in arrogance. She'd said it before, like a dare, like she needed to remind me who she thought held the leash. But this time, I didn't flinch. I stepped closer, leaned into her perfume-soaked confidence, and whispered, "I already did." Then I turned around and walked out. And that was the moment everything changed. I didn't take the car. I didn't take my luggage. All I took was the key she thought I'd never give up, and dropped it on the hallway table like a mic. She didn't follow. She didn't shout. She just stood there with that same smirk frozen into something confused, something a little worried. And maybe, for the first time, a little scared. She had no idea what was coming next. Her name is Madison. The name sounds soft, clean, like a pop singer or a cheer captain. But behind it, poison. A walking performance. She could smile sweetly while stabbing you in the back with the knife you handed her. I didn't see it for years. That's on me. But I started seeing. It was the little things at first. The way her phone never left her hand, even in the shower. The way she'd laugh at messages she never explained. The makeup before grocery runs. The sudden girls' nights out that came with silence and red lipstick. Then came the big one. My daughter's wedding. Mia, my girl, my heart, was marrying a decent guy named Troy. Everything was ready. I paid for the venue, the dress, the food. I'd covered it all. Madison helped with the planning, of course. Always had to be the center of attention. But something felt off. Mia looked nervous 2 nights before the wedding. She hugged me longer than usual. Whispered, "Dad, please just be chill this weekend, okay?" I didn't understand at the time. But I nodded. Then the wedding day came. And standing there, next to my wife in the front row, wearing the custom suit she never complimented me on, I saw him. Tall, tan, fake laugh. The guy she swore was just a coworker. His name's Hunter. How cliché is that? And when Mia introduced him as a very important guest, my ears rang. Madison's eyes darted away. I watched her fingers twitch. That was all I needed. I said nothing. Not at the ceremony. Not at the reception. Not even when they shared a drink and she whispered in his ear, thinking I wouldn't notice. I just smiled, toasted with them, ate the steak I paid for, watched her flirt in front of my face, in front of our friends, our family, our daughter, and then I disappeared. Not physically, but financially. The morning after the wedding, I logged into every account that had my name on it, every shared card, every investment, every property, and started pulling strings. Quietly, methodically. I left nothing under her reach. The house, switched into my trust. The joint accounts, drained, my half, legal and precise. Her luxury car, leased under my company. Her gym membership, canceled. Every damn thing she touched, I touched first. And that's when he moved in. Not Hunter. Not some rebound. My brother, David. The guy she hated. The guy she said had no class. The one who lived out of state, built his own empire, and never forgave her for how she treated our mother. He'd recently gone through a divorce. Needed a place in town. I offered him the guest house Madison had turned into her she shed. I didn't tell her. She came back from one of her fake yoga retreats, unlocked the door, and found him sitting on her velvet couch, sipping scotch and watching her TV. She screamed. And David? He just looked up, grinned, and said, "You must be Madison. Heard a lot about you." That scream echoed through the entire block. But that wasn't even the beginning. You see, what happened after that made headlines in our entire town. And I hadn't even gotten started yet. She slammed the front door so hard the windows rattled. I was sitting across the street in my truck, engine off, lights out. Watching. I didn't even blink. She paced in circles in the front yard, talking to herself, trying to process what just happened. David didn't leave. He stayed. Calm. Confident. Like the house was his, which, technically, now it was. Madison didn't know yet that the deed had been transferred weeks ago. Not to my name, but to a trust under my daughter's initials. Mia had signed the documents without asking questions, just hugged me and said, "I trust you." That meant more than she'll ever know. By the time Madison realized she couldn't kick David out, she'd already called 2 lawyers. Both told her the same thing. She didn't own a single brick in that place. Not anymore. She texted me at 2:13 a.m. "You're being petty. You're embarrassing yourself." I didn't reply. 2 minutes later. "We need to talk. Be an adult." Still nothing. 5 minutes. "I'll ruin you if you don't fix this." She always did that. flipped between sweet and venom. Thought it worked. Maybe it did once. Not anymore. Next morning, I walked into my office downtown and found a letter on my desk. Anonymous, but I recognized the handwriting. Sloppy cursive. Her lover, Hunter. I never meant for it to go this far. She said you didn't care about her anymore. That you were always working. I'm sorry. What a coward. He folded when it got real. The moment he felt the spotlight shift onto him, he vanished like a ghost. Blocked her. Deleted photos. Told their mutuals it was a mistake. Left her spinning. She came to my office that afternoon. No appointment. No warning. Just stormed in like it was still her world. Wearing that fake designer dress I bought last Christmas. I'm not letting you do this to me, Daniel, she snapped, slamming her hands on my desk. I leaned back in my chair, sipping black coffee. Didn't say a word. You're ruining everything. Our life. Mia's future. Your reputation. Our life ended the second you started auditioning for a replacement, I said quietly. Her eyes twitched. She scoffed. You're pathetic. I pointed to the door. Then leave. Like you already did. Just this time, take your lies with you. She didn't move. So I stood up, walked past her, opened the door, and said, Hunter's gone. You're next. This office. Mine. The name on the building? Mine. The silence in your phone now? That's what loyalty sounds like when it leaves. She left without another word. Later that week, Mia called me. Voice shaking. Dad, I think Mom's losing it. I didn't ask why. I already knew. She'd tried calling me as new in-laws, pretending I had financial issues and that the wedding bills were unpaid. She told neighbors I had a midlife crisis. Even went to church, twice, just so people would whisper that she was the victim. But I prepared for this. That weekend, I dropped off a file at the local paper. No names, just facts. Emails, screenshots, bank transfers, hotel receipts. Anonymous source, legally verified. They ran the story. Front page. Socialite's double life exposed in messy split. Everyone knew. Everyone read it. And just like that, the invitations stopped. The brunches. The wine nights. The social club. Her world collapsed faster than she ever expected. Mia called again. Dad, why didn't you say anything earlier? Because sometimes, I said, you let people hang themselves with the rope they bought. That silence on the line. That was understanding. That was her realizing the difference between anger and justice. But I wasn't done yet. She showed up at my daughter's place 3 days later, pounding on the door like a madwoman. Mia called me crying. She's outside. She's saying I betrayed her. That I let you poison me. I told her to stay inside. Let the storm scream itself dry. Madison stood out there for 20 minutes before the cops arrived. Claimed she was just there to talk. Claimed she was the real victim. That her daughter had been manipulated by me. That everyone had. But the thing about liars is they forget where they left the truth. Mia had seen the texts. The photos. She knew about the hotel charges paid in cash. About the canceled therapy sessions Madison claimed she was attending while she was sneaking off with Hunter. My girl wasn't dumb. She just needed proof. And I gave it to her, quietly, respectfully, the way a father should. After the police made Madison leave, I went over. Mia was shaken. Her husband tried to calm her, but she just kept repeating, I don't understand how she could turn on me like that. I did. When people like Madison lose control, they set fire to everything near them, just to feel like they still matter. Even if it's their own family that burns. The next day, I got an invite from a friend. A private dinner. Just a few of us who had been blindsided by our ex-wives in similar ways. I didn't want to go at first, but something inside me needed to hear someone else say, yeah, I went through it too. And they did. One guy lost his business. Another, his home. Another, his kids. I still had mine. And now, I was getting my peace back. That night, for the first time in what felt like years, I slept with the windows open. No alarms. No checking texts. No listening for the sound of her keys in the door. Just silence. Beautiful, unshakable silence. A week passed. Then 2. Madison went dark. No calls. No new stunts. I almost thought she'd given up. Until Mia called again. She's suing me, she whispered. She says I tricked her into giving up rights to the house. I told her not to worry. I'd already talked to our lawyers. Madison had signed everything with a notary. There was no trick. Just truth. The kind she'd been dodging for years. The court date was short. The judge was unimpressed. Madison's crocodile tears didn't work. The moment she started ranting about family betrayal, and emotional damages. The judge shut it down, ruled in Mia's favor, declared Madison's claim baseless. On the steps outside the courthouse, she tried to talk to me. "You think you won, don't you?" she hissed. I looked at her, no longer the woman I married, but something hollow, theatrical, and tired. "This was never about winning," I said. "It was about walking away with what mattered." She laughed, bitter and fake. "You'll be alone." I smiled. Better alone than lied to. She turned and stormed off, heels clicking on the pavement like cheap echoes of the life she'd built on pretending. And I stood there still, breathing, free. A month later, her name started vanishing from everything. The clubs she once bragged about being part of quietly removed her from the rosters. Her face disappeared from charity flyers. Her old friends stopped picking up her calls. Even the social media pages she curated like a shrine turned into ghost towns. Last post. A champagne selfie from the wedding. The comments were brutal now. She tried damage control, of course. Claimed mental health struggles. Told people she'd been abandoned by her family. She spun it into a redemption arc. Problem was, no one cared. People have short attention spans, but they remember snakes. I got a letter from her lawyer 2 weeks later. A last swing in the dark. She wanted to mediate. Said she was willing to be civil and divide assets amicably. I sent it back with one note. There's nothing left to divide. She lost her mind. Started showing up at my building, trying to get past the front desk. Sent flowers to my assistant with notes that read like threats in cursive. "We can still fix this." She called David at least 5 times. Left him voicemails asking him to convince me to meet. David sent me the audio. I saved it, just in case. Then came the part that shook even me. Mia called again. Her voice low. She showed up at the house. With a bag. Said she had nowhere to go. I froze. "What did you do?" I asked. I closed the door. That silence meant more than any conversation we ever had. Mia had always tried to give her mother the benefit of the doubt. She wanted to believe Madison was just confused, or hurt, or misunderstood. But when it came down to it, when her home, her peace, her marriage was at stake, she made a choice. She chose truth. Madison didn't call again after that. Not for a while. Not until the thing with Hunter made the news. Turns out, our golden boy had been using company funds to finance his little affairs. Not just with Madison. For women. 2 of them employees. Internal investigation. He got fired, sued, blacklisted. When the news broke, Madison was caught in the photos. Fuzzy ones, grainy, but clear enough to see her at dinner with him, arm wrapped around his neck like a proud accessory. Headlines followed. Not about her. But she was in the splash zone. And that was when I stopped feeling anything. No rage. No satisfaction. No pity. Just distance. Like she was someone I'd read about in a book I didn't finish. I met someone new a few weeks after that. Nothing serious. Just coffee. Her name was Sarah. She asked what I did. I told her I used to clean up other people's messes. Now, I just enjoy the quiet. She laughed like she meant it. And when I told her I had a daughter, she smiled and said, "She must be strong, like her father." That caught me off guard. No one had said that to me before. Not once. And I realized, I hadn't just survived Madison. I'd built something stronger from the ashes she left behind. Another season passed. The trees changed, the air thinned, and for once, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. There were no late-night calls, no random emails from burner accounts, no whispered drama that somehow led back to my doorstep. It was calm, and in my world, calm was a revolution. Then one evening, Mia called again. Her voice was calm, but I could tell she had been crying. "Dad," she said, "you should see this." She sent me a photo. Madison, standing in the parking lot of a strip mall, hair tied back, handing out discount salon flyers. She looked worn. Not older, not broken, just like someone who had finally run out of masks to wear. Her once perfect nails chipped, makeup uneven, and that same designer coat now wrinkled and 2 seasons behind. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel joy. I felt nothing. And that's how I knew I had finally healed. The next day, I drove to the lake. Just me. No music. No distractions. Sat on the edge of the dock we used to visit every summer. The same one where Madison once promised me she'd never lie. I closed my eyes, let the wind hit my face, and thought about what had been taken and what had been returned in its place. That's when Mia called again. "I have news," she said. I could hear the nervous smile in her voice. "I'm pregnant." It hit me like thunder in the ribs, not from shock, but from pride. You okay? I asked. I'm scared, she said, but ready. And in that moment, everything came full circle. Madison had torn through our family like a storm, left ruin in her wake, tried to rebuild her kingdom on ashes and gaslight. But here was my daughter, strong, clear-eyed, starting her own chapter, with none of her mother's poison in her voice. I asked if she wanted me there when she told the rest of the family. She said no. This one's mine, Dad. I respected that. I knew Madison would hear about it eventually. Maybe through a cousin, maybe online. And she'd do what she always did. Frame it as betrayal, as exclusion, as yet another thing stolen from her. But it wouldn't matter. She wasn't part of the story anymore. I never replied to her last email. The subject line read, "Can we at least talk?" The body said something about closure, shared history, all the usual performative guilt she reached for when she needed sympathy. But I had already grieved that woman, buried that chapter, learned to love peace more than justice. A few months later, Mia gave birth to a little girl. They named her Grace. When I held her for the first time, I looked into her eyes and whispered, "You don't know it yet, but you're the clean slate our whole family prayed for." She blinked, yawned, and in that moment, I wasn't Daniel, the husband who was betrayed. I wasn't the man who lost a decade to manipulation, or the one who watched his world shatter over champagne toasts and staged smiles. I was just Grace's grandfather, and I'd never let anyone take that from me. Spring brought warmth back to the city, and with it, the kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. It was in the way the curtains moved with the breeze instead of being yanked shut out of paranoia. It was in the coffee that stayed hot because I wasn't constantly interrupted by drama. And it was in the laughter, real, unforced, coming from Mia's house when I stopped by to see Grace. I visited them more often now, not because I had to, because I wanted to. Mia would hand me Grace, and she'd settle into my arms like she knew she was safe. Like my heartbeat was enough. Madison never called again. I think she finally realized the spotlight was gone. Her tricks had no audience, her tantrums no echo. She'd worn out every excuse, burned every bridge, and stood alone in a world she'd built for herself. A kingdom of mirrors and no reflection worth looking at. One day, while helping Mia move some things into the garage, I found an old photo album. Dusty, heavy. It was from our early years. Madison and I, younger, smiling like we knew something the world didn't. Mia in a stroller. Vacations. Holidays. The stage perfection. I flipped through slowly. Every picture was like a ghost. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't miss it. I just felt distance. That version of me. The man who overlooked lies, who brushed off red flags, who mistook manipulation for love. He wasn't me anymore. He was someone I had outgrown, painfully, but necessarily. I put the album in a box marked, "Don't Need." Later that night, Mia texted me a video. Grace, wobbling on her feet, taking her first 2 steps before collapsing into her toy elephant. She walked, Dad. I watched that video 10 times. Each time, I caught something new. The way Grace looked up after falling, surprised but unafraid. The way Mia clapped through tears. The quiet in the background, so different from the tension we used to breathe like oxygen. And I realized, this is what freedom feels like. Not just from a person, but from the version of yourself that allowed them to stay too long. I started writing again. Nothing serious. Just late-night thoughts, poured into a notebook by the window. Reflections. Lessons. Warnings for the man I used to be. And one day, I wrote this. If she ever says you'd never leave, smile. Whisper that you already did. And let her find out the rest on her own. Because walking away isn't weakness. It's choosing your life over their chaos. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a man can do is disappear so completely from her story that she forgets how she ever spelled his name. One afternoon, months later, I was in a bookstore downtown, browsing through a table of hardcovers I'd probably never read, when I heard someone say my name. Not my full name. Just Daniel. Soft. Unsure. I turned slowly. Madison stood there, smaller somehow. Less polished. She wore oversized sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. The illusion of power she used to carry like perfume, gone. She looked more like a woman trying to remember who she used to be. Hi, she said. I didn't answer. I waited. I was just in the area. She gave a little laugh like she thought that made sense. Didn't think I'd run into you. She hadn't changed her voice. Still that half-sweet, half-staged tone. I knew it well. I heard about Grace, she said. She's beautiful. Like Mia. I nodded once. Nothing more. She shifted her weight, suddenly unsure of what to do with her hands. I've been doing some therapy. Good. I've learned a lot. About myself. About how things fell apart. They didn't fall apart, I said. You broke them. That stunned her. Maybe she thought time would blur things. That if she approached slow enough, I'd forget the shape of the blade she used. I miss them, she said, eyes watering. You, Mia, the life we had. I studied her face. Not to read it, but to memorize that moment. The moment she realized I was truly, irreversibly, no longer hers. We're doing fine, I said. Better, even. I know, she whispered. I see the pictures. I hear things. Of course she did. People love to watch what they've lost, especially when what they lost thrives without them. I just wanted to say sorry, she added quickly. For everything. But her voice cracked at everything. Because she didn't even know where to begin. I took a breath. Not because I was angry. I wasn't. I was calm. You didn't just lose a marriage, I said. You lost the privilege of being in our future. She nodded slowly. No tears now. Just hollow acceptance. I walked past her without another word. And for the first time in all the years we'd known each other, she didn't follow. She just stood there, alone in a place filled with stories, none of which were hers anymore. I drove straight to Mia's. Grace was in the backyard chasing bubbles with her mother. Mia waved. I stayed back a moment. Watched. Listened. And I thought, this is how you know you're healed. When you no longer wish her pain, nor crave her apology. When your peace isn't tied to revenge, but to the life you built without her. That night, I sat on the porch holding Grace as the sun dipped low. She rested her head on my chest and mumbled something that didn't make sense, but meant everything. And I whispered back, you'll never have to wonder if you're loved. Because in a world full of broken promises, I finally became the kind of man who only makes ones he keeps.